us with much entreaty that we will receive the gift and take upon us the fellowship of the ministering to the saints. This particular church in Macedonia was not a very rich church. But even though they weren't a rich church, giving was a key focus for them. And they gave beyond their means. That was more important than worrying about what they had. And notice what it says in verse 1. All right? Grace was bestowed upon that church. They merited grace because of their unselfish giving. I do want to put a few verses here that are very interesting to me, and I may have read these things, I just never noted. Look at verse 8. I'm just going to read the end of it. It's talking about giving, and it says, to prove the sincerity of your love. Drop down to the last verse, verse 24. It says, the proof of your love. Giving validates the love of God in our hearts. Giving validates the love of God in our hearts. And I said it, but let's read it, just so you don't think Terry made that up. 1 John, chapter 3. Giving validates the love of God in our hearts. Verse 16, 17, 18, and so forth of 1 John 3. Hereby perceive we the love of God. Here's how we know the love of God. Because he laid down his life for us, we ought to lay down our lives for the brethren. Christ said, follow me. Just like I gave everything, you give everything. But whoso hath this world's goods, and seeth his brother have need, and shut up his bowels of compassion from him, how dwelleth the love of God in him? My little children, let us not love in word, neither in tongue, but in deed and in truth. Giving of the goods we possess, whether that be money, food, clothing, whatever is needed, validates the love of God in our hearts. Brother David, you opened with Acts 4, showing the church had need. And the disciples gave of the things they possessed. They gave of the things they possessed. Some gave their homes. Some sold their land. Of the things they possessed, they said, we don't think it's ours. Very first verse says, they didn't count it as theirs. So they sold it for who it was meant for. The church. That particular church. They recognized, this ain't my land, this isn't my house. It's God's land, it's God's house. Therefore, since this is God's initiative, I'm going to extend myself so I can be part of him extending his covenant. So I want you to put together all the stuff we've talked about so far. God establishes boundaries. And he says, if you step in the boundary, or better yet, if you step out of what I put you in, you're going to be accursed. He gives us money. And the first thing he says is, give it away. All right, we read last week, we went through different scriptures where giving was a major part of it. We also saw saving, not for ourselves, saving for our children was another part of it. And we also saw, oh, and by the way, pay the world, tribute. Pay tribute. That's also to help you pay what the world demands of you. Okay? The rest of your needs, God says, I'll take care of. See, but if we don't have that part, then all that money we count to take care of our needs first. And he's like, no, you don't. You keep missing it. If you keep taking your needs first, then you miss me. You're taking of what I've reserved.
Jesus.
You're taking of what I have reserved. You're just like Achan. Now, let's now summarize and compare tithing to this, or why tithing doesn't work. Tithing is not bountiful, because it's abstract. Here's why. Two families, they both make $50,000 a year. But family one is a family of 5. What's a typical American family? Husband, wife, 3 kids. 2.5 kids, close enough. All right? And a family of 5 is living on $50,000. And they're tithing 10%. Well, 10% for them is probably a sacrifice. Let's take the next person, single, making $50,000. 10% is nothing. They don't have the same level of expenses. Now, I don't mean they didn't go out and spend that money, because that's what most folks are doing.
Right.
But if they're supposed to live a godly life, they absolutely don't have the same level of expenses.
Right.
So 10% for them means nothing. They can probably give 30 and still be just fine. So if I'm tied to the law by tithing, then I'm never given bountifully. I'm saying I'm done. You know, you recall we were in the audience of a particular minister who reported that his company, his profit company, made $80 million. Well, in his mind, if he gave 10% of that, he was serving God. Now that's $80 million. Now 10% is only $8 million. Even if you take taxes out, let's say 50% taxes, okay? He had $40 million to play with. Of the $40 million, he gave away $8 million. So he had $32 million to play with. And he said, I've served the Lord. Are you kidding me? We have families living on less than $50,000 a year.